Hi there, Smart Driver, talking to you about going back to school, traffic around school areas, school signs, school buses, those types of things. All this is happening this week here in North America. In Europe, it started yesterday because they didn't have Labor Day and those types of things. So back to school driving, we're talking about school buses, we're talking about kids on the roadways, crossing guards, those types of things, keeping yourself safe. As I said in the introduction, speeding in a school zone when school is in session is an automatic fail on your driver's test. Good stuff to have a look at. Driving on gravel roads, you want some tips and strategies about driving safely on gravel roads. We've done a video about that, and a podcast on defensive drivers, new drivers just getting your license. Look at the tips and strategies for keeping yourself safe after you get your license, because new drivers with brand new ink still wet on your driver's license are most likely to get into a traffic crash. So you're at high risk. So look at those skills, techniques, and strategies to keep yourself safe after you get your driver's license. Defensive driving. Okay, the smarter defensive driving model. Social driving. What is the problem that you are facing when you're on the roadways? Because the way that everybody else drives is not the way that you should be driving, right? Think about this for a second. Most people get a driver's license. They practice for 6 to 8 weeks. They go in and they get a driver's license. They pass their driver's license, and then they never get any professional training after that. There is no profession, and I use that word, profession, where you cannot go along for 30 or 40 years and not get some sort of professional development. Medical doctors, lawyers, teachers, police officers, all these people get professional development training as they're going along in their careers. And it's the same thing with driving. You should have some sort of professional driver training to reduce your chances of getting involved in a crash. But unfortunately, for many people, they don't. And something happens in the driving environment, and because of a near miss or a traffic crash that they had, this is what informs their decisions when they're driving. For example, somebody gets rear-ended when they're sitting waiting to make a left-hand turn. They no longer sit there and signal to the left, because the last time they did it, they got rear-ended. So now when they're preparing to make a left-hand turn, they turn on their four-way flashers to warn traffic behind them that they're stopped at the intersection. This is not your best defensive posturing when you're sitting at an intersection. Put your left turn signal on so that you communicate effectively with what other traffic is doing. Four-way flashes are not for turning. Four-way flashes are not for driving in bad weather. So take some sort of professional driver training after you get your license to keep yourself safe. Space management, speed management, observation, and communication. If you can do nothing else when you're driving, keep a 3 to 4 second following distance behind traffic in front of you. The number one reason for rear end crashes is following too close. Everybody on the roadway follows too close. If you start taking note of traffic that's on the roadway, most drivers, most cars are following the vehicle in front of them at 1 second. And most people do not know how to measure time. They think that time is a distance. It's not a distance. It's time. It's relative. And the reason that we measure in time is because the faster you're traveling, the space between vehicles increases, because at 50 kilometers an hour, 30 miles an hour, you're traveling at approximately 27 meters per second. Is that right? No, 18 meters per second. At 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour, you're traveling at 27 meters per second. So that space increases if you have that 2 to 3 second following distance behind other traffic. And yes, as Marion just said, sometimes people are going to cut in. And the other day, I was keeping space in front of the vehicle when I was driving around Kelowna, and pickup truck drivers would just drive into the space in front of me. There's barely enough space for them to fit in, but they just feel that they need to. But again, like motorcycle riders, pickup truck drivers drive aggressively. So know that. You see a pickup truck driver, you're like, yeah, I'm going to stay away from that person because I know that they drive aggressively. So know that. All right. So space management, 2 to 3 second following distance, stopping in traffic, 1 vehicle length back from the traffic, from the car in front of you. Speed management, the posted speed limit or the flow of traffic, whichever is less for the purposes of your driver's test. After you get your license, I do encourage you to keep up with traffic flow. It makes you more predictable on the roadways. Observation, looking far down the roadway, both shoulders, center mirror, down the roadway. This is your scanning pattern. Every 8 to 15 seconds, you should be repeating this. In instrument panel, far down the road, side mirror, down the road, your other side mirror. So that's your observation. And then communication. The number one way that we communicate with other road users on the roadway, and I say road users as opposed to vehicles or drivers, is because we got kids on scooters, we got kids on bicycles. Just let me know in the comments here, because this is the other thing that annoys me about traffic, and I don't know whether this is a Western Canadian thing. People on bicycles and people on scooters riding into traffic. Let me know if where you live, people on bicycles and people on scooters ride into traffic. What is this about? It's dangerous. You're on a bicycle, and now you're going to, instead of having a sideswipe crash, which you're probably going to survive, you're now putting yourself in the position that if you do get into a crash, you're going to be in a head-on crash. So let me know in the comments, all of the people here, if you're watching on the replay, if people on bicycles and people on scooters and those types of things ride into traffic. What is that? I was walking the teenagers to school this morning because I had to help Charlotte register at the high school, and these kids on scooters, and I moved over for them so that they could be next to the road. Now mind you, I moved over to the left, to the inside of the sidewalk, because I'm like, yeah, I'm not moving over to the other side of the sidewalk for the scooters. They ride right up to me and they stop, and as if I did something wrong. I looked at the girl on the scooter, on the electric scooter that she had rented, and I said to her, there's a bike path right there, and I pointed at it. I said, there's a bike path. Like, why are you riding right into me on the sidewalk on an electric scooter? That's my pet peeve. Marion says all the time, and they look like you dare them to knock them down. Yeah, I don't, why would you ride into traffic on a bicycle? You're already a vulnerable road user. It boggles my mind, but it is what it is. Paul, no, last night in Mississauga while walking, a cyclist did exactly that in the night. Yes, okay. So, this is the other reason, and I'm beginning to think that this is a Western Canadian thing, because I've never seen it before with this prolific riding your bicycle into traffic. And a mate of mine who, he said to me, well, I ride my bicycle into traffic, it's safer. And I'm like, not according to physics, it's not safer. Not only that, it's unpredictable, because I'm not expecting you to be riding your bicycle into traffic. It just doesn't make any sense. So as I said, let me know in the comments, you're watching here or you're watching on the replay, let me know whether people ride their bicycles into traffic. All right, Anonymous, because those on the scooter act like the rules don't apply to them. Absolutely. Marion, and no helmets because it doesn't look cool. Yes, it messes up your hair. And this is the other reason why I'm predicting that the future of traffic safety in the next 5 to 10 years is not going to be good because of these electric vehicles, people riding their bicycles into traffic and those types of things. And, when we were in Madrid 3 years ago, people on electric scooters riding right up between the lanes of traffic, and again, what Marion said about the fact that they're not wearing helmets, it boggles my mind, and this is the reason that we're going to have more deaths among the vulnerable road users who are driving on our roadways. All right, school speed zone signs, regulatory signs. It is a regulatory sign. It's only effect when school is in session, and speeding in these zones during a driving test is an automatic fail on your driver's test. Know that. Okay, these signs are being phased out. The slow when students present on highway, I've seen these around a few times, but as I said, they're becoming phased out because people do not see students on the roadway and they fail to slow down. So what they do instead of this is they just take them out and put in a school speed zone sign so that is in effect from 8 until 5 o'clock in the afternoon on most days that school is in session. School buses, okay, they're in North America, they're painted yellow. You can't miss them. And in most places in North America as well, they now have a strobe light on the top of the bus to get your attention because our eyes are attracted to light and movement. Yellow strobe lights. There's a stop arm, and in addition to that, there are yellow cautionary lights that are going to flash as the bus is coming to a stop and slowing down. And then once the bus comes to a stop and is taking on passengers or alighting passengers, the lights change to red, which indicates that you have to come to a stop and wait until the stop arm is retracted, the lights are turned off, and the bus proceeds. Then you can go. And know as well that penalties are severe. Most provinces, most states, it's 6 points, and it's a significant fine. I think it can be upwards of $1,000 to $2,000 in a fine. Your insurance premiums are going to go up, and most buses now run dash cams. So know that if you do this, you're probably going to get caught on camera. School crossing guards. These crossing guards have the same authority as police. Obey the directions of the crossing guard. We have one crossing guard here at the school in town at the traffic lights, which is always makes me chuckle a little bit, because the crossing guard should actually be up a few blocks on the roundabouts, because I find trying to cross at roundabouts, I find that really challenging, especially with the roundabouts that they've built here in town, because the roundabout or the crosswalk at the roundabout is too close to the roundabout. It's like one vehicle length outside of the roundabout. So when you go across and the roundabout's busy, traffic is backed up through the roundabout. So they're not designed as best they could be. So know that and exercise caution at roundabouts. Mostly, but not always, at busy intersections in the vicinity of the schools in the morning. So it's the same thing with school buses, right? And they're going to be out in the afternoon between 2 and 5 o'clock in the afternoon. School buses and school crossing guards are going to be out. So know that for the purposes of keeping yourself safe, keeping other people safe in and around the schools and whatnot. Good luck on your driver's test. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Be sure to head over to the Smart Drive Test website and get your driving test checklist. All the things you need to check off to be sure that you're ready for your driver's test and to be able to pass first time. So for those of you going for a driver's test, shoulder checking, probably the number one reason for failing. So let me just back up there a little bit. So there's two ways you can fail a driver's test. One is points. You're assigned points for each mistake that you make on your driver's test. Minor errors will get you 5 to 10 demerit points. Major errors will get you 10 to 20 points. Now, most driving tests, you're allowed 30, 35 points. Once you get more than 30 or 35 points, you're not going to be successful on your driver's test. You're going to fail. Some places like New York, they don't do feedback anymore. The driving examiner goes out for a test. They get out of the car at the end, and then you have to log into their website after 6 p.m. to get the information about whether you passed or failed your driver's test, which unfortunately is disappointing, because the debrief, the information that you get back from the driving examiner, is valuable for you moving forward and passing your driver's test. So the second way that you can fail is an automatic fail. From my professional experience, I would hazard a guess that most people who fail a driver's test do not fail automatically. I would say it's probably 5 to 10% of people that fail their test automatically. Most people who fail a driver's test demerit out. They get too many demerits. They just don't have enough experience. They don't have good speed control. They don't take corners smoothly, or they don't stay in their lane. They drift into the lane beside, and they get too many demerit points, and they're not successful in passing the driver's test. So automatic fails include such things as not stopping immediately for an emergency vehicle, not stopping for a school bus, blocking an intersection as the person did today when I was driving downtown. I stopped because the traffic was backed up on the other side of the intersection, and then the person makes a left-hand turn and sits in the middle of the intersection. Don't do that on your driver's test, and I'll make a short about that. And then they charged a yellow light, and they ran through on a yellow light. So know that for the purposes of your driver's test, if you do that, you are not going to be unsuccessful. And that will fall into the category of that is an automatic fail on a driver's test. A driving test fails that no one knows about. Unexpected events that could happen. Turning right on a red light. Emergency vehicles. Yellow lights. All these things could potentially cause you to fail on a driver's test. So we can help you with all of this and being successful in passing your driver's test. Traffic signs are important. If you read traffic signs and glean the information from traffic signs, not only is it going to help you pass a driver's test because you know the information that you're getting from the traffic sign and you're able to be proactive on the roadways, but it allows you to be a safer, smarter driver because you can be predictable and proactive when you're driving along the roadways. And again, coming back to your driver's test and passing your driver's test, drive in and around the test center where you're going to be taking your test. Figure out the traffic signs, figure out where the lane merges are, where the bottlenecks are, where the school zones are, because we're coming into school season. School is back in session, so all the school speed zones apply, all right? The other one that's going to catch you out, the unexpected events, are potentially speed zones around parks. We have one here in the town where I live. It's around the park, and it's 30 kilometers an hour from sunup to sunset. Know that for the purposes of your driver's driver's test. I have had students in the past that have failed in these park speed zones. Know where they are for the purpose of your driver's test. Know where the school zones are, know where the merges are, know where they're going to parallel park and those types of things. And if you're not taking driving lessons with a driving instructor, this isn't likely for most of you. Most of you are going to be taking driving lessons. But if you're not taking driving lessons, book one driving lesson with a driving instructor and go out with him or her. They will take you on the test route. They're not going to tell you that, but they will take you on the test route. In addition to that, they will show you where the driving examiners, the people that are the testers, they're going to show you where they're going to do the Ohio maneuverability test, the parallel parking on the street, or whether it's parallel parking with cones. Right? You need to know what's on the test. And I will say to you that your best source of information for knowing what is on your driving test is the driving instructors that work in and around your town. Okay? Your friends are not the best source of information. Driving instructors teach people how to pass a driver's test every day. These are the people that are going to help you pass your driver's test and be successful first time. Tim, school just started in Winnipeg today. Speed limit school zones is 30 kilometers an hour. Yes, and that is generally in effect from 8 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm from New York and I took my driving test about 2 times and I had bad experience, a different instructor. Scared to go back, I didn't pass. Danita, don't let somebody else's opinion of you become your reality, okay? Book your next driving test. Look at the feedback that you got for your driver's test previously. Improve those skills and then go back and do your driver's test again, okay? Don't postpone it, okay? Don't perseverate on this. Book your driver's test, go and do it again, and you're going to be successful in passing your driver's test, all right? Evan, if a school bus has an arm out on a divided highway in the opposite direction, proceed with caution. Yes, indeed. The only state, because New York State likes to be different in almost every traffic law for the school bus, but in all other situations, you do have to stop for a school bus. Danita, you are most welcome, my friend. And if you need anything or you have questions, drop us a comment. I'm more than happy to help out. I do check the comments most days and we'll direct you to the videos that you need to be successful in passing your driver's test. New York, where did you take your lessons? There you go. Awesome. Danita, you got some help there right in the comments with another driving instructor from New York. So that's definitely going to help you out, my friend. Know that for the purposes of a driving test, speeding in a school speed zone, that's an automatic fail. So it is okay on a driver's test to go a little bit slower in a speed zone. And again, be vigilant with your observation, looking down the roadway, looking for students, looking for intersections, school crosswalks, those types of things in and around school zones. Be vigilant. Epic, my friend. Another thing when it comes to divided highways, when dealing with a school bus, some states require you to slow down to 10 miles an hour if you are separated from opposite traffic by a median. Others stop at all. That you have to stop is the state of New York, but I'll need to confirm that because I haven't seen that. So if somebody could give me a source for that, that would be really great. And then I can put that up on the community tab. We can all be informed correctly. Awesome. Arch, Brooklyn is difficult to maneuver if you don't have a patient instructor. And yes, it is. The other thing, Arch, that I remember about Brooklyn, when I was driving truck there in the 1990s, it's probably gotten worse now, but they had a lot of one-way streets in the industrial areas in Brooklyn, and because space is so limited in Brooklyn, timber mills, mechanic shops, all other industries would be working out on the street. And I can remember going up the main thoroughfare and trying to figure out a street to go north, and you're kind of looking up the street trying to figure out if the street is blocked with people on the roadways and those types of things. So yes, as you just said, Brooklyn is difficult if you don't have a patient instructor, for sure. Ryan, thank you for the super chat, my friend. Ryan, you can definitely get your driver's license. It depends on what state you're in. There are some states now that will allow you to take the learner's license online, but it depends which state you're in. Not all the states do that, or the provinces and those types of things. But you can definitely get your license. We've had many smart drivers over the years who are 20 years old, 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old. And talk to Marion. She just recently, within the last 2 years, passed both the driver's license tests here in the province of British Columbia. And Marion and I know you're not supposed to talk about a woman's age, but Marion and I are the same vintage. So we'll just leave it at that. But you can definitely, Ryan, get your license at 40 years old, my friend. There's absolutely absolutely no reason that you can't. Arch, yes, New York, we have to stop for school buses in all instances. Yes, there you go. So like I said, New York likes to be different. You know, the mile markers don't line up with the exit numbers on the interstate. They measure from the center of the hub on commercial vehicles as opposed to from the road. So if the height sign says 12 feet 6 inches, most of the time you can go under it with a commercial vehicle. There's a couple other things about New York State that are different. Oh, you can't turn right on a red light in the city of New York and the five boroughs. So let me see if I can get this right. Manhattan, the Staten Island, Brooklyn, Queens, and the Bronx. You can't turn right on a red light in those 5 boroughs. And in addition to that, the speed limit inside the city there in New York City is 25 miles per hour. Know that for the purposes of driving in New York State and in New York City. Marion, I was about to say if I can do it, then you can do it. Definitely Rick and I are of the same vintage. So thank you for that, Marion. Zeke, any updates on the second road test being eliminated next year? Rick, are you doing the Lord's work, spreading your driving knowledge? Much appreciated. You are most welcome, my friend. Yes, here in the province of British Columbia, it is inevitable that they are going to cancel the second driving test. I think it's coming next year. I would need to look into the details of that for you, but definitely we'll do something about that, about the second test, that they're canceling that. And that's going to happen with all the GLP programs and all the GDL programs, because the testing centers simply don't have the personnel to administer all these tests. In addition to that, they're finding out that it's just not working, right? It's easier to just put them on a 2 or 3 year probation period. If they don't have any driving infractions, they don't get any points on their license, then they just give them a full license. This is what they do in the States, and it works really well. So I can see it going in that way. Marion, it makes you appreciate it when you can walk to places rather than have to jump in the car all the time. Marion, you're absolutely right, my friend. Absolutely right. Epic, in some parts of New York City, the street speed isn't 25, but 20 miles per hour. Keep in mind, some school zones have higher speed limits. Instead of 25 miles per hour, 40 kilometers an hour when they 35 to 55. There you go. Okay. And the other, what was I going to say about that? Yes. And Corey put up the video for you on me in New York City with my friend Sam. And I was not successful on the driving test because I got distracted by a car up on jack stands on the side of the road. We were talking about this earlier with businesses working out on the streets and those types of things. And I went past the car on jack stands that was double parked, and I was like, oh, that's really weird. And then I went back to the way that I always drive with making a right-hand turn on a red light. And Sam said to me, oh, you just failed your driver's test. So this is why I encourage you and I counsel you to always be practicing in and around the test center where you're going to be taking your test. All right. Corey's put up that video on driving lessons in New York City. All right. Shoulder check. Okay. You need and must shoulder check for the purposes of passing your driver's test. ABS. Always be scanning. And this is why I advocate shoulder checking. And people will say, oh, I have blind spot detectors on my car, or I have convex mirrors on my car and I don't need to shoulder check. Yes, you do, because blind spots are not static. They do not remain the same. The orientation of your vehicle on the roadway is going to change the blind areas around your vehicle. And this is why you need to move your head. You need to be scanning, because you cannot just move your eyes and look and see and scan effectively when you're driving. You need to be active participant in what's going on the roadway and changing traffic conditions, because your job as a driver on a driving test is to demonstrate to the examiner that you have due care and control of the vehicle in changing traffic conditions. In other words, you can be safe no matter what happens on the roadway. So you need to do merges, acceleration, slowing down, braking, all of that needs to be done smoothly. In addition to that, and Corey will put up the videos on pre-trip inspections, make sure that you do a pre-trip inspection on your vehicle before you go down, and know how to turn on your headlights and activate the high-low beams, okay? Because they're going to do a mini pre-trip inspection on your vehicle before you go out for your road test. You're going to have to turn on the signals, the headlights, the high-low beams, the windshield washer fluids, the washer fluid. If it's cold, if it's the wintertime, early morning, and you need to defrost and clear the glass on the vehicle, you're going to have to know how to turn on the defrost while you're driving. Okay, so those secondary controls are important. They're also going to check the doors, the safety, the seat belts, making sure that their safety features are working and in place when they take you out for the driver's test. So if some of that stuff is not working, you could potentially be denied a driver's test. Brake lights, for example. If you have a brake light out, they're not going to take you out on your driver's test because the vehicle is not safe. It only takes 10 minutes. If you can wield a screwdriver, you can change the bulb out on the brake lights on your vehicle and make sure that it's safe and you won't be denied your driver's test. Also, make sure that your insurance and registration are valid for the purposes of taking your driver's test. Don't be denied for something goofy on your driver's test. Know that. Keep yourself safe. Pass your driver's test first time. Do the pre-trip inspection. Get as much experience as you can before going out and taking your driver's test. And as I said, if you're not taking driving lessons with an instructor, book one mock road test with the driving instructor. He or she will take you out on the test route. They will take you to the place that the driving examiner will get you to do your parallel parking, your 3-point turns, your reverse stall park. Most of the time, for most tests, you can go into the test center and you back into the parking space if you can, if signs don't prohibit it. That way you can drive out and it's going to be a lot safer and it's going to reduce your anxiety and your nerves when you start your driving test. And when you drive out and they tell you go to left or right, make sure you signal in those directions. Make sure you signal in parking lots than it is anywhere else, because there's little kids and families and lots of pedestrians, vulnerable road users, and those types of things in parking lots. So do a mock road test if you're not taking driving lessons with an instructor, because instructors teach people to pass a driver's test every day, and they will help you to be successful first time on passing your road test. If you have any comments, questions, leave a comment down in the comment section there. We'll definitely do what we can to help you out and make sure that you're successful in passing your driver's test first time. Good luck on your driver's test, and remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Have a great night. All the best. Bye.